Hello and welcome to Dialogue. With the theme New Visions for the Future, the 4th China Central and Eastern European Countries Expo has kicked off in the city of Ningbo of Zhejiang Province, hosting more than 400 exhibitors and showcasing over 8,000 products from Central and Eastern Europe. The expo expects to exceed 10 billion yuan, or about $1.4 billion in imports and purchase intentions from the region. How significant is the event and what can we expect out of the expo? And what does it say about the status quo of the cooperation between the two sides? Join us for our discussion today, live from Beijing. I'm Xu Qinduo. Joining me today are Bostjan Demsar, General Manager of Domel Electric Motors Suzhou, and Levente Horváth, Director of the Eurasia Center and former Consul General of Hungary in Shanghai, and Andy Mok, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Welcome to the show. Well, I will start with, let's say, Bostjan. I know you are at Expo yourself, so please share with us your observation of this year's Expo. Any changes or anything impressive for you?
你好. What to say? It's first time for me, so I hardly say how it was last year. But the first day was quite interesting. Very nice booths, nice places, nice people. So I like it very much. It looks really amazing.
Okay, so what's your intention? What's your expectation out of this event?
That's a good question. You know, we came with a reason to show what we do, what solutions we can provide to local people, to local governments. We have a nice booth on the Slovenian business pavilion, and we want also to deepen our cooperation with our Slovenian diplomacy.
Levente, I know that you will be there tomorrow, the second day, basically, after the opening. So what's your purpose? Any particular goal of joining the expo?
Yes, actually, we can say that this exhibition is not only an exhibition. There will be a lot of other conferences too. So I will participate in the think tank conferences. And I would like to mention that when I was the Consul General of Hungary, we participated in this Ningbo exhibition. It was a kind of small, but now it's already became a very huge platform. And as I have mentioned, that it's not only about the exhibition, but there are a lot of cultural, tourism, university, education, etc., etc. So it's really a people-to-people exhibition too.
Andy, of course, this expo previously was between, basically hosted by Ningbo, a city, one of the biggest cities in the Zhejiang Province. But still, later on, it was promoted as a national event. But along with that, we have multiple, every year, multiple events like this expo, right? We have Import-Export Expo, for example, and of course, Trade Expo in Guangzhou, in other cities, Service Expo in Beijing, for example. What do you make of events like this, especially this one between China and countries in, Central and Eastern European countries?
No, you're absolutely right, Qingduo. So this particular expo represents an important piece in China's overall approach to deepening and broadening its trade and investment relationships with the rest of the world. And I think it's important to point out here that the Central and Eastern European countries are about 280 million people and 3.7 trillion US dollars in GDP. So this is actually a very, very sizable grouping with countries, larger countries ranging from Poland and Ukraine to smaller countries in terms of population like Montenegro. So I think this is an enormously diverse region with tremendous opportunities, but I think they're all united by the opportunities presented by the Chinese market. But also, I think it's important to point out by technology investment going from China to this part of the world. And I'll give you a quick example. CATL, the world's largest battery manufacturer, has made the largest ever foreign direct investment in Hungary to establish a battery plant. And recently, this week, in fact, CATL had a secondary listing in Hong Kong with about 90% of the 4.6 billion US dollars raised dedicated to its expansion in Hungary. So I think this shows the importance of this region in trade with China, but also as a partner in technology development for not only this part of Europe, but the entire European continent as well.
We'll speak of the Chinese investment, in particular in this new green energy. Levente, we know, as Andy mentioned, in Hungary, Chinese leading EV manufacturer BYD has based its European business headquarters and a new research and development center in Budapest, the capital of your country. So what is the expectation of the BYD investment and, of course, its important presence there?
Yes, last week the president of BYD came to Hungary and announced that they are building up the European Center in Budapest in Hungary. And actually, last year they already announced that they will have a big factory in Szeged, in another city of Hungary. So now we are becoming the center of the Europe, the BYD center of Europe, and it's very good for the Hungarian economic. They are giving us a lot of jobs opportunity. So it's a good opportunity for Hungary to have the Chinese investments, because I have just mentioned that the CATL, BYD, and there are several other big Chinese companies, such as Huawei is also building up the Central Eastern European base or center in Hungary. And we are happy with that because now we are witnessing a kind of industrial revolution 4.0. So it's we need a big help and big support for other countries to have this kind of high-tech cooperation. And China nowadays is the biggest or one of the first country and leader in the high-tech industry. So it's a very big and good opportunity for Hungary to have this kind of cooperation, and Hungary can also be a leader in Europe, in the EU, a leader of the high tech by the support of the Chinese investment. But also there are the trades because of the China-CEEC cooperation, and the Hungarian government has the open to the east policy. So we doubled our export to China and tripled our imports from China in the past 10 years.
Well, it's a good example for this close cooperation between the two sides. And then let's go back to Bostjan. Bostjan, you are from Slovenia. And Slovenia this year, together with Slovakia, I believe, they are the guest of honor of this year. And a senior official from Slovenia said, the country, Slovenia, boasts fast-growing AI and blockchain industries and excels in smart manufacturing and robotics. Tell us more about Slovenia. It is ranked as the 7th most roboticized economy in the world.
Slovenia is very diversified. We don't have any major industry, I would say. Our solutions are in many different sectors: automotive, pharmaceutical. From this year, I think we are also official member of European Space Agency, and there are many companies doing this part. We are also a highly educated nation. Everyone is speaking at least one or maybe even two languages. So another important thing I would say is our green nature, because 60% of our land is actually forest. And one of the most important part is our port, Koper, which is basically the closest port to China.
That, of course, is important. I mean, location and, of course, distance. What about the products or services from Slovenia, like your business in China? I mean, how is it going in the China market?
This is an interesting question now. Of course, we are doing our best as every company, and we were established in year 2006 because we were invited by our major customer at that time to go to with them to China, and we are doing actually very well. All these years we were developing new products, developing market, but majority of our business is actually export.
Is it export or import?
Export, actually, yes.
Oh, so what are the products? I mean, you exporting to China, right?
What we produce in Domel Dormai GTN Suzhou is basically 80% we export to Europe or USA.
Okay, manufactured here in China. So, okay, what about the business environment? I would say, like, must be attractive enough for you guys to invest here in Suzhou.
We are, as you said, we are fully owned foreign enterprise with 100% ownership of our mother company in Slovenia. What can I say? We see opportunities, and that's why we are here. That's the basic reason. Another thing is also that we have solutions which are now up to date. We are, as a company, we are very diversified in four major sectors, and every sector where we actually are is growing at the moment. So do actually well.
Yeah, competitive edge and opportunities. Andy, these are the words, opportunities, as you also stressed earlier. I mean, if you take a look at last year, the figure of bilateral trade between China and countries in the region reached like more than 142 billion US dollars, setting a new record high. If you take a look at the percentage, it's like it represents 6.3% year-on-year growth. What do you make of such growth, especially today,
No, Qingduo, I think that, despite all the headlines about gloom and doom, I think, first of all, the fundamentals of China's economy has demonstrated remarkable resilience. And in particular, if we look at the Chinese consumer, increasingly discerning, increasingly cosmopolitan, and increasingly searching for novel, high-quality experiences. And here, I think one explanation for what we're seeing in the growth of trade, especially exports from the Central and Eastern European countries to China, is a great example of this dynamic. So there's such a diverse range of countries, again, from Poland to Estonia, to Hungary, that these are very diverse cultures with a diverse range of products. And I think, again, their ability to tap into the Chinese market is a very exciting opportunity for many of these countries and companies, as we're hearing from our other guests.
Well, Levente, of course, the Chinese investment, if you take a look at some of the figures, they say, some incomplete statistics probably, but anyway, China's investment in this region has so far exceeded 24 billion US dollars. And one big destination, of course, is Hungary. What makes Hungary stand out in this respect, receiving Chinese investment here?
First of all, Hungary, as I have mentioned, in 2010, we announced the Open to the East policy, what is about diversifying our international relations. So not just relying on the Western countries, but having cooperation with the Asian countries, such as China. And the other way, Hungary has the connectivity policy, what is also very important. We are against of this kind of trade war and this kind of we have witnessed in the history that this is not good policies for the world economy. So we are about the connectivity. We do have a very stable political environment in Hungary, such as the Prime Minister Viktor Orban already is the Prime Minister for 15 years already. And he has a very good relation with the Chinese leaders, with President Xi Jinping. So this is also a very important part of this kind of cooperation. They need a stable political environment to do a very good business. And also, as I've mentioned, we have the open to the East policy. It means that we are willing and welcoming every company from Asia, from China, but of course from all over the world. And we are trying, actually, the Hungarian government has similar sentences and policies like the Chinese government. They are talking about the mutual respect, the win-win cooperation, and this kind of dialogues. We need peaceful dialogues, and this is the main point. That's why the Hungarian and the Chinese government are in good relation. And the other way, of course, Hungary and the Central Eastern European countries altogether, they have good geographical environment. They are in the middle of Europe. They have very good infrastructure, etc., etc. But the main reason, I think, we have a stable political and economical environment.
Levente, you mentioned this, talk about the connectivity, and business environment, infrastructure. Of course, one important project and Belt and Road Initiative is Hungary-Serbia high-speed railway. We know the section inside Serbia is already finished, and the part connecting Hungary is to be finished this year. How important is this high-speed railway?
Actually, however, in the Western media, they are against of this kind of cooperation. So they are saying that Hungary is the Trojan horse of China. But actually, from the view of economic, it's a very important issue and a very important project, because Hungary and the Central Eastern European countries, actually, they only have east and west connection to the Western Europe. And we don't have the north to south, this kind of connection. So, for example, from Hungary to get to Czech or Poland, it's very difficult. However, they are neighborhood countries. And Serbia also, it was 8 hours to get to Serbia, a neighborhood country. And now by the Budapest-Belgrade railways, there will be only 2 or 3 hours to get from one part to the other part. So it will be a big help, not only for Hungary, but for the whole Central Eastern European region. And because of the Central Eastern European region actually is the engine of the European Union. So if we look at the GDP and other statistics, now we can see that the Central Eastern European countries are the engine of the European Union. The Western European, they are developing more slowly than the Central Eastern European countries. And we hope that after the Budapest-Belgrade railway, it can still go more northly, and it will be a North and South Europe connection. And as we have witnessed and seen that in the One Belt, One Road, also in whole Asia, there are several north and south connection, and it can help, it can build up a real network, and everybody can have a win-win situation in the whole cooperation.
Well, Andy, Levente mentioned a very interesting point. I mean, Hungary probably is one of the few countries that maintains true independence, sovereign in terms of decision making, policy making, despite all the criticism or cajoling sometimes by the Western partners, about the road initiative or a relationship with China. They are looking for taking good care of their own national interests in making independent decisions instead of trading wars, instead of de-risking, instead of decoupling. I mean, that's important. For countries, between China and the countries in the region, of course, to work together in a way that benefits both sides and for their own interests, instead of, following Washington or Brussels, or de-risking or distancing themselves from China. So is that the case?
That absolutely is the case, Tingdua, and I think there's a couple reasons for this, as we heard from our guest from Hungary. I think one is strong leadership. So Viktor Orban, of course, is known as a leader with backbone and the willingness and the ability to stand up for his own country's interest. I think they also take a very pragmatic approach. And we see this in other parts of the world, like the Gulf Cooperation Council countries as well. Pragmatism, focusing on win-win, respect for mutual sovereignty. But I also want to touch, Qingduo, on this question of infrastructure. North-south infrastructure, of course, is very, very important for this part of the world. But digital infrastructure, I think, is also vitally important. And I think one thing we will see that will accelerate economic development in the Central and Eastern European countries is AI, and in particular, the way Chinese companies are implementing AI through open source, meaning that rather than have to pay a premium for access to large language models like DeepSeek, like Alibaba's Q1, are all open source, meaning that anyone, individuals, companies, universities, can use them pretty much for free. And I think what this will do is this will drive enormous adoption and diffusion all around the world, but in particular, regions like the Central and Eastern European countries, exactly because they are very pragmatic, very focused on sustainable development. So I think this is another aspect of infrastructure that is worth mentioning and paying attention to.
Yeah, it's high-end infrastructure. It's beyond like road and ports and airports, but equally important, probably more important in terms of further, high-tech development for this region. And speak of that, of course, there's a very new practice starting actually from May. We have this, air route service known as €1 to China Express. And that was launched in May, as I said, reshaping how goods from Central and Eastern Europe reach Chinese consumers. The air cargo route from Budapest to Ningbo cost delivery time from weeks to right now, it's about just 4 days, and reduce this transportation cost to as low as like €1, slightly bit more than €1 of 1 kilogram for 1 kilogram. So Bostjan, I want to have your input here. I mean, how important it is for business in terms of reducing the cost of logistic costs here.
This is extremely important. The most important in this field, I would say, is a stable connection, because Europe stayed out of stable connection. So Suez Channel, we know what is the situation there. The ships are going around. So I believe that is a very nice achievement.
Yeah, a very nice, extra development over there for the businesses.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah. This, of course, is very relevant to what we have talked about, the connectivity, and the focus, Andy, back to you, focus on development, focus on cooperation, focus on building new infrastructures, cutting costs. This, of course, both sides can benefit from that kind of practice instead of politics. I think that's important. That's like a common practice. That's a common sense. But also, it is important in today's world where too much politics or geopolitics, you may say, between nations here.
That's right, Qingduo. So I think one thing about this one Europe to China air corridor too to point out is that lower cost, of course, is very important, but also streamlined processing as well. So especially for producers of high value, time sensitive, perishable goods, the more certainty you have, the more transparency you have, as well as lower cost, makes it much more attractive. And I think manufacturers, suppliers can feel much more confident in selling to China. And of course, I think this also demonstrates, or is another dimension of China's dual circulation strategy to strengthen consumption, but also tighten the linkages between manufacturing, distribution, and consumption within China, but also integrate this with countries all around the world.
Yes, integration of connectivity. They are kind of similar in this sense, bring countries together to work together for the benefits of everybody instead of dividing countries based on ideological lines or differences. In that sense, probably that will only decrease of the profits of the businesses among countries. And Slovenia is, according to this earlier, I mentioned this senior official, they say, Slovenia is one of the EU countries that has publicly opposed imposing tariffs on Chinese EVs. So Bostjan, I think, how we know that there are differences, there are different understandings because of the so-called, de-risking strategy or reducing so-called reliance on the Chinese side, or EV because China is ahead of other countries. There's concern. What's the prospect of resolving the differences over the EVs here?
Good question. I would say it's a very complex question. I'm happy that Slovenia voted as it did. So for us, this is some kind of the right approach. I know that also Germany voted the same way. So basically, we see that we have to cooperate, and that is the only sense. I mean, countries, companies should be allowed to work together. Of course, we understand that car manufacturers in China are new, are very pushy, or how to say, they are very active, they are very fast, they have many new cars, they are extremely good competition. And I understand that some are afraid of that. So I would understand both sides, to be honest. And at the same time, I think we have to find a way how to cooperate with those companies, especially Slovenia, because we don't produce cars in our country like other Eastern European countries. We have one bigger factory from Renault, but generally we are a manufacturer of parts for automotive industry. Also, our Domel company has 30% of our revenue in automotive business, very highly developed, highly sophisticated parts, which are mainly now for electric vehicles. So we are looking forward to establish this kind of businesses. Even here in Ningbo, with our commerce delegation, we had a discussion about these opportunities in future.
Levente, of course, I think countries voting against that extra tariff, basically prefer a healthy competition. Competition is good. Competition is good quality. Competition is good to the customer. What do you make of that? What kind of prospect do you see in terms of resolving that problem?
Yeah, the Hungarian government, they don't think this kind of sanction they can solve the problem. The problem is not about this kind of sanctioning and this. So we need a dialogue between the countries, but fortunately, nowadays we can realize that, especially in the changing world order and the US just kind of leaving the EU. So the EU is changing their mind and they are trying to be in a better cooperation with China, because actually after the US sanctioning the EU, the alliance, the friends, the EU has no chance. The EU also have to look for other partners, and China is the biggest trade and partner of the EU. So we hope it can be changed and have a good cooperation.
Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. Many thanks to our guests. You can also find us on the CGTN app on YouTube. I'm Xu Qinduo. Thanks for being with us. See you next time.